It is the Sunday Roundtable, Florida Maquis Patreon channel. If you are here, you are at the $20 a month subscriber level. Here we go a little bit farther beyond training and start to demonstrate the effect of psychological operations en masse in America and around the world. We take these concepts like cognitive dissonance, the availability heuristic, the endowment effect, all of these things that you would think are just boring topics for a Psych 101 course, and show how, when put together in certain ways, can affect major changes in the world. Sometimes people think it's really more complicated than it is, when it's really not. Today, of course, I referred to earlier in the video I did on YouTube that we were going to be talking once again about the availability heuristic and how we can show this particular psychological state that almost all of us are at risk of finding ourselves in can be exploited and has been exploited. One of the things that I've used as an example is the issue during the primaries of the last election cycle, 2015, where right about the exact same time that the current leader was tweeting about illegal immigration in the wall, there was, of course, this unfortunate incident in California where a woman was accidentally killed by a homeless man who discharged a weapon that ricocheted off the ground and hit her. Now, Mr. O'Reilly on Fox News grabbed this, took advantage of the availability heuristic, took this one incident and these few minor sporadic incidents all around the country and blew them up into this huge issue, and using this psychological paranoid state of people called the availability heuristic, made literally everyone in America afraid of just right around the corner there's going to be some illegal alien ready to kill you. When it's much more likely that you are going to be killed by someone who's a citizen, you're much more likely to be killed by a car accident, you are much more likely to be killed in a great many ways than by someone who just so happens to be on the wrong side of some arbitrary line down in the southern part of this continent. So we will leave that part there so that we don't get too far off onto another subject. I used this earlier to show that clearly when you have someone who is so disconnected from the reality around them that they would take much more note of the headline here, the Lindsay Lohan update, than he would the person homeless sleeping on the bench on his way to work. I see this all the time. This one I didn't use in the earlier video, but this one I think is very relevant, given that we've seen a lot of headlines about the Mega Millions or Powerball or something gotten up to like 500 million, that you have people out there that are engaged in so many more risky behaviors that could be to their detriment, that they will ignore, but they will, of course, go pay the stupid tax and buy lottery tickets. And it's an amazing study in psychological disconnect with reality. One other thing that we used, I think this one would stun people. These are facts, and you can look this up for yourself. There is literally almost unanimous consent across liberal and conservative groups that Venezuela, quote unquote, is a failed state. When you look at the actual numbers of oil being exported, they are still exporting more oil than the United States, even in 2017. How possibly could a country of only 30 million people, whose population, by the way, has gone up every single year for the last 20 years, supposedly there's this giant exodus out of Venezuela. The population numbers don't agree with that. If there is a giant exodus, then the people who are staying are having babies at an incredible rate, which means they're planning families, which means they're planning for the future, and they have the money to do so. one way or the other, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. The story, when you look at the facts, doesn't work. And you go down here, and I'll try to zoom in, maybe give you a little better view here. There we go. And you can look this up, www.worldstopexports.com. It's not hard to find the world's top oil exporters. And of course, you look down here, number 12, Venezuela, $23.1 billion. And number 13, the United States at $21.8 billion. So go down to Texas, like I said in the other video, go down to Louisiana, go down to all these places and look at all of the massive infrastructure being used to pull oil out and put it on ships and export it. And when you see it, it's absolutely a jaw-dropping thing to see, the amount of effort and infrastructure necessary. And you would think there would be no way a failed state could even get one tanker full, but Venezuela still, to this day, in its quote-unquote failed state, does more than the United States. At one time, it was up around number 2 or 3, where it was, making what the United States does seem like nothing. And you have to understand, it's a country the size of Texas with a population 1/10 that of the United States and still doing much, much, much more oil. It's just not reality. But this is what happens when people take this thing called the availability heuristic and they take headlines from Fox News like this and make them think that, oh my gosh, something terrible is happening out there. And like, this is the #1 story with everything going on in the world right now. Hundreds of people dying in Japan from heat wave. This girl, one random girl, goes missing in Iowa. And no one knows why, but of course it's the headline. And then Trader Joe's in Los Angeles. It's at Tiger Woods, Whoopi Goldberg. But believe it or not, I mean, the rates that places like Fox News and just to show you CNN, the rates that they get for their advertisers is insane because they know the effect. They know the effect of the availability heuristic. And it is kind of odd because some of the stuff here, if it were put on YouTube by random people like you or me, would be demonetized because of its controversial state. But these, of course, are massively monetized because of all of the ads that go along with it. The CNN here has had the exact same literal headline for months talking about Mueller and the investigation, but they know that's what drives their viewership. The availability heuristic. Here's a hilarious one. Shark attack. Yeah, like that's a front page story. Like, the likelihood of shark attack is literally, I think, less than meteor strike or something. It's horribly low. And but to watch people actually make decisions in their life and respond to things in their life based on such limited information is terrifying. It really, really is, because when government gets a hold of something like this, you might think you came to that conclusion on your own, but you didn't. Over here, Columbia Reports, last thing we'll talk about regarding this is this story coming out about these FARC dissidents that allegedly blew themselves up trying to set a bomb. And of course, people are going to laugh, it's like, oh, stupid terrorists. But when you read down here, they haven't been able to do any forensics to even know who these guys were. This is just a report from the police because the ELN controls the area. So they don't even know literally who the guys are. But of course, they're blaming it on the FARC already. Local authorities were uncertain how many people were killed by the bomb. According to Lutrego, security forces have been unable to attend the situation because of the presence of guerrillas of the ELN. So they don't have any idea who did this, or what caused this explosion, or what the hell happened, or who was responsible for it. But this is going to be their headline. FARC dissidents blow up the road and themselves. Because they're setting up for a war. So, we will leave it there. The availability heuristic, be on guard for it. One thing I will tell everyone, psychological operations requires and leans heavily upon ignorance. of these psychological states, when you know about cognitive dissonance, when you know about the endowment effect, all this kind of stuff, availability heuristic, you can combat it, and you can immunize yourself from this. And when you do so over a long period of time, you'll start to see a whole new picture of the world around you. So we will leave it there. Thank you so much. Roundtable every Sunday. We will meet here and we will discuss the effects of psychological operations vis-a-vis the training we conduct during the week. Like, share, subscribe.